Happy Halloween, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Ash vs. Evil Dead show on AFTERBUZZ TV. Tonight we are talking about Season 2, Episode 5, Confinements. Guys, we went full Hellraiser. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Love ballads above. How were we deemed worthy of this perfect love? I'll ask the trees, I'll ask the sky, I'll ask the whole wide world. How did a housewares employee land the perfect girl? How did the perfect girl land a housewares employee? Encore! I could barely focus on my checkout line. We're gonna stop. We're gonna have to sing the whole song, or we will just be lost in the musical for the rest of the night.
Can this be a regular feature? You guys doing duets over me?
Oh gosh, like if we could, don't even get me started when we get to like do the Necronomicon, or I can belt out "Look Who's Evil Now," like in my very shrill, awful singing voice. But anyway, guys, hello, welcome to another episode of the Ash vs. Evil Dead show on AFTERBUZZ TV. Tonight we are talking about Season 2, Episode 5, Confinement. Let me go ahead and introduce our fantastic panel. To my left, Lex Michael.
Hi, I am Lex Michael, all over social media at the Lex Michael.
Emma Fyffe.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm clearly Bulma.
I
it
almost
says so
said Bulma Briefs
on my shirt.
I had to stop and remind
I
myself
am the richest woman
Bulma.
in the world. I'm a genius.
She's a super genius.
I am, and I'm married to the king of the Saiyans, basically.
I don't know. When you're in that outfit, you're really
I know,
just looking
I'm
for a
really
boyfriend.
just starting out looking for a boyfriend and Dragon Balls. No, I'm Emma Fyffe. I can be found all over the internet at my name, Emma Fyffe, EMMAFYFFE.
And I'm Megan. You guys can follow me on Twitter at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin. We are also going to be keeping an eye on the hashtag ABTVEvilDead. We also have the live chat pulled up. So that's going to be a good time. If you guys want to give your thoughts on tonight's episode, we may give you a shout out. Or if you guys want to just comment on our costumes.
Yeah, exactly.
That
That's
works
also allowed.
We can all talk about my screen-accurate
Actually,
Lex Michael costume.
We're commenting on your plaid shirt and how nice it looks.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you, everybody.
It is
You look
a good
lovely.
plaid.
Yes,
yeah.
I put a lot of effort into this Lex Michael costume.
So you could be Scotty from the first Evil Dead film. I do believe he wore a plaid shirt.
There we
Certainly,
go.
In the musical adaptation, he wears a plaid shirt.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, our viewers across the seas, I am in fact Scotty from Evil Dead.
So here, actually hosting the panel is Bulma Briefs, Scotty, and a random Slytherin in the zombie
I
apocalypse.
was like,
that's kind of what I was
that's
going
what you were.
for.
I was like, are you supposed to be like Crab and Goyle?
I could have just been like a hardcore Quidditch player. Like that works
That
too.
works too,
But
yes.
like I think the chainsaw is supposed to go with this costume.
I got
I
you.
see.
Okay,
This
got
was
it,
really
got
just
it.
stuff I threw together from my closet, so it was the best I could do. Anyway, guys, we are. Oh, one more thing, guys. Lucretia sadly can't join us tonight, but be sure to follow her on social media as well. She is great and awesome, and she'll be back with us next week.
And she'll pick a song that like actually goes with this instead of something from Evil Dead the musical.
Because if it's up to me or Emma, it will always be from
will
Evil
always
Dead the
be
musical.
from Evil Dead the musical.
But speaking of music, before we really get, before we start digging into tonight's episode, earlier this week, I guess it's a little early for news and gossip, but earlier this week they had the Evil Dead concert
Yeah.
in Los Angeles, and sadly, I was not able to attend.
I
and
was
neither
also not able to
Emma.
attend.
But Lex and Lucretia were.
That did in fact happen. This was an insanely cool event that they were doing at the Ace Hotel in downtown LA, and it's the full movie with the score by Joe LaDuca performed with live orchestration. And I feel like we spend a lot of time talking about different facets of the Evil Dead franchise on this show. I feel like we don't talk about the original music all that much.
We don't. Like, that's something that sadly we've overlooked in terms of our discussions. But, like, sound in horror movies, and that includes the score, is incredibly important. Horror does not work without its sound.
Absolutely, and I feel like maybe for the first time seeing it presented that way with the live orchestration, it really became clear how much I feel like we've all taken Joe LaDuca's work for granted, because, wow. I mean, like, I feel really lucky to have gotten to go do it, and we did some press, and we talked to the composer. Lucretia did a great interview with him that you can go check out. Bruce was there. Did not do interviews, but I got to yell out and be like, Bruce, love, we love you.
You're so cool.
Come on our show.
Actually, Dana was there as well, and I saw her in passing, and I
her.
didn't get a chance to say, hey. The best I could have done would have been exactly that. We're like, Dana, AfterBuzz, remember me? Can you come back?
We love you.
But it was very, very cool, and I'm going to use that word a lot because I feel like that hits it. It was a very, very cool night. It opened with a short piece, a violin piece that the composer had put together, and it was Telltale Heart, a duet in terror, I believe.
That sounds awesome.
Telltale Heart was the scariest thing I ever read by age 11 or whenever I read it. That was just very scary and confusing to me.
And it was.
I mean, it's told from the point of view of a clearly going crazy person.
Oh yeah. Oh, completely.
So they cast the hell out of this. The actress that they cast to narrate the Telltale Heart over this violin piece was Ivana Lynch, better known to mass audiences as Luna Lovegood. Awesome. I mean, bizarre, you know what I mean? She has a very ethereal weirdness that she's able to bring to her performances, and it was absolutely perfect. Super weird, but in a really, but in the best way possible.
I was gonna say, I mean, Evil Dead, it's the whole series is weird, but in a great way. So I feel like that's very fitting.
Blockbuster Bill has a correction to your description of this concert. Rather than it being cool, Lex, it was groovy.
You're right. You're right. Mea culpa. I retract my previous statement. We'll print a correction in tomorrow's edition. It was in fact quite groovy.
Yes. Thank you for our fact checkers in the live chat.
So after that, Bruce came up and he did an intro, and that was great. And obviously, Bruce is a ton of fun because he's Bruce. And then they screened the movie, and again, seeing it in a theater, live audience with the orchestration, my heart.
That's
you guys,
awesome.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I've watched the original Evil Dead. I feel like I would have loved to experience that.
I think I would have liked to have experienced it too, because I've made it no secret that the first film in the franchise is my least favorite because of very specific reasons.
Sure.
Yes.
Well, that, and it's also a student film, so it's the least well put together.
Definitely the least polished, sure.
But yeah, that's a good way of putting it. But the other thing is that when I sat down to watch it, I was also not in a good place to be watching it because there was so much noise going on around me. There were people blasting music, and I'm listening to it on my headphones, trying not to blast my eardrums out while doing it.
Were you watching this while there was a party happening in your college dorm room?
My roommates decided, hey, we're just gonna play music even though you're clearly watching a movie.
Okay.
That is what it was. Anyway, so I would have liked to have seen it in a not awful context either, so that would have been great.
I feel a little bit spoiled now because I feel like I've got the Blu-ray copy at home, and they did an amazing job transferring that movie to that format, but it's just not, it's never gonna be that now.
You feel like that's the definitive version of how you should see this movie.
And I feel too like these are great movies. This entire series is great movies that you can have an individual experience with, but then also to be in a big packed house of fans.
Yes, that's always great.
Nothing tops that experience.
Yeah, going to a movie in the Hollywood Forever Cemetery is always super fun too.
So fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
If you guys haven't done it yet, for you LA locals, go do it. I highly recommend it.
I know Dana and I were tweeting back and forth earlier about how they should do a Evil Dead marathon.
Absolutely.
But starting late at night, so you just spend the whole night in the cemetery watching Evil Dead.
I am down with that.
I did see Evil Dead 2 at the cemetery, and it was so much fun.
That's
it was great.
Oh, that is the dream. So okay, let's go ahead and start digging into this episode, Confinement, because as I said at the top, this episode went full Hellraiser.
It did.
With a little bit of the Thing or Who Goes There tossed into the mix.
Right,
Sure.
with the there's the alien inside of you, and you don't know. And,
you don't know who you can trust.
Exactly.
And it makes you paranoid.
In this case, it was a demon, but yeah.
Yeah, I think Megan, certainly you're way more steeped in Hellraiser mythology than I am.
Yeah.
But I caught the references, but it was really when I was like, oh, they're doing the thing.
Yeah.
Is when my heart just started like palpitating a little bit in the best possible way.
Yeah, no, like when an episode starts with a demon skinning a woman and then like very much saying, hey, I'm gonna go wear this person's skin, I was like, wow, we went like full Hellraiser 2 in like that was 2.5 minutes.
If even.
Yeah, less than that.
Okay, so watching that opening, see that cold open before, you got the credits, when he was slicing her back open, I was like, oh, this is pretty tame for Evil Dead. And then I was like, oh no. Just kidding.
And like it immediately went from like bad to worse, and then there is a skinned person with their eyeballs.
Yeah.
A lot of weird like flappy skin business in this episode.
Yeah, a lot of that going on in this one.
Yeah.
And like again, just talking about the Hellraiser references, the second Ball said "come to daddy," I was like, ew, 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 no, not okay.
And
not
then
okay.
at first too, when he skinned her and he like threw her face on the floor, I was like, oh, maybe he's not gonna wear her skin. Just kidding. That's exactly what he's gonna do.
Yeah. Which is stupid. I don't know about you guys, but when I pick out an outfit from the closet, I don't immediately throw it on the ground. Like that's how wrinkles happen.
Yeah.
He wants it to have like a naturally aged look.
Oh, I get it now.
He's like really into the vintage apparel scene. And he's
Okay,
trying
I
to-
see. He's being all hipster about it.
He doesn't want to buy one that's like that. You know what I mean? He wants to do it himself.
Well, what's silly too is that he clearly has the ability to just look like a normal person wearing a suit or walk down the street.
so
Lucy Lawless is going to be the only one that recognizes him.
But am I the only one who saw him, especially once he had the suit on? I was like, oh, it's evil Tommy Wiseau.
No, I thought the exact same thing. Like I had a moment where I was like, is that Tommy Wiseau?
I mean, with the hair, and like at any point he's just gonna like scream, "You are tearing me apart, Ruby!"
Oh, hi, Ash.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, if you haven't seen The Room, I highly recommend seeing it at a theater at midnight with a lot of people.
Yes.
Other than that, stay away. It's not good.
I mean, bring tomatoes. I believe that's
No
encouraged.
spoons.
Spoons.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
spoons.
it's easier to clean up.
No, they're actually, if you go to a screening of it at midnight, like that, you will throw spoons at the screen. It's a thing.
Okay,
There's
but-
like a whole set of rules. Like just go with someone who knows what they're doing and play along.
It's kind of like going to see Rocky Horror then. Like,
Yeah,
you guys,
100%.
There's a set of rules, and you should just go with somebody who's done the routine before, so that you're not the one guy going, do I throw the spoons now? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. I'll
Yeah.
wait.
Right.
Yeah, but don't with The Room it's okay, but with Rocky Horror, if you're going for the first time, don't let anybody know it's your first time because they're gonna do weird things to you.
Yeah, they're gonna pull you up. They're gonna like throw a
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting.
Good times. So many good times.
Interesting screening if you out now admit it's your first time going.
Yeah.
So keep that on the DL, folks, and just watch what happens.
Yeah.
And everybody else. Anyway, so yeah, we get introduced to Ball for the first time because this is a character that we've heard about like 4 episodes like leading up to this point. It's been very cryptic and everything like that. So I wanted to know, what did you guys think of this first impression when, like, again, we get a skin-wearing demon who kind of looks like Tommy Wiseau? Are you guys frightened or amused by this guy?
Listen, the chat is divided down the middle on Ball about whether or not they like him. About half the participants are like, he's terrible, I don't want to see him again, he was disappointing and blah. And then the other ones, for example, Joe MK1 says, Ball was very awesome in my opinion, plus I would let him brew for the rest of the season. This was just an introduction to him, and I'm glad we've gotten him very early. So he thinks like we'll see him and then he'll go away and not come back for a while.
Yeah, purely on a surface level, like obviously, yes, we've addressed the Tommy Wiseau thing. Also, there are bits of performance where he feels very Brad Dourif-y to me.
A little bit. He looks a lot like Brad Dourif.
And
absolutely.
I like it, and I like how like ridiculous the a long fingernail is. Like his whole thing is goofy in a way that I appreciate. But what really makes it work for me in this episode was Ruby's response to him.
Yes, I agree. I mean, because certainly more this season, we're seeing her rattled a lot more, and especially in his confrontation with her where he's like, you are human. Like, don't try to pretend, don't play like you some kind of god.
Yeah.
You're human.
Which is an interesting revelation on our part too, because we've spent this entire like season and a half going like, what is Ruby? We know she was one of the authors of the Necronomicon, but like, is she a demon? Is she an old one? Is she like some person who just got unnaturally long life? And here we find out that whatever she was prior to this, now her immortality has been taken from her. We don't know at what point in her life it was, but it's something that probably prompted her on this journey in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like knowing that Ruby can die it's a little unsettling because she was our big bad from last season, and to see this guy you're absolutely right, seeing her response to him. And again, it's all in Lucy Lawless's performance. Like, she really sold it. His performance could have come off as too kitschy or too campy,
Right.
even for Evil Dead, or at least as far as like our big bad villain for this season goes.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I thought that because I certainly had that initial reaction of, okay, this guy is kind of silly, and even for all the skinning that happened, I was like, we've seen a lot worse.
The first thing he
Evil
says
Dead.
when he comes out of the second flesh suit that he wears is,
Yeah.
"Hey, Toots, what's going on?"
Yeah.
And again, you can take that as either like, because there are a lot of villains right now that are both like charming and funny, like, but at the same time still terrifying, like a Kilgrave type character.
Sure,
And
sure.
I think
he's
they're-
less
yeah.
terrifying than Kilgrave. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna throw that out there.
So far, for sure. Yeah.
100%, but that kind of seems to be what they're going for, especially since
Yeah.
this is a character that can seduce and manipulate you into doing whatever he wants.
And that's what really, for me, the way Lucy Lawless played how Ruby is affected by Ball, both the fear, but also, like you just said, he's incredibly seductive. And even somebody
Yeah.
as strong and centered as Ruby is susceptible to it.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
And maybe on the page, that wouldn't have been enough to get me past the, oh, hi, Mark, of it all. But the way Lucy Lawless played those scenes, like, you feel it. And it makes
Absolutely.
it so much more real and immediate and personal a threat than it could have been otherwise.
I would have liked it, I think, if he had looked less like Tommy Wiseau. You know what I mean? Like if he'd been like real sexy.
Like if he had a haircut, like at the very
Right.
least.
If
like,
he was like a Jason Momoa, like real sexy, you know what I mean?
But I almost wonder, maybe it's like that's to drive home the point of how powerful he is.
You're
I'm
right.
like, look at this weird looking dude, and yet no one can resist him.
and no one can
Yeah,
resist
you're
him.
right. I think that's fair, Lex.
The only other thing I want to point out in terms of these two, this like the scene that they have together, is that like we finally get our Ruby lesbian kiss.
Oh, yeah.
That we were denied all of season one.
I know.
And then it turned out to not be a lesbian kiss. No.
Well, listen, I don't know that Ball is specifically male. Ball is demon. Like that, I
That's
feel like
true.
that's gender fluid.
Sure.
Who knows how he identifies?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't assume that since he has a
You're right.
semi-masculine name that he identifies as male or that he has a male human appearance.
You're right. You're
dear.
right. I shouldn't make assumptions. Although that being said, like they killed the one person in this episode that seemed to be very gender fluid. So boo, boo.
That note was a little weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a little disappointed that they killed off the transvestite drag queen
Yeah.
situation that was happening.
The only thing that saves it for me, and it's still, as a note, it feels a little weird, but what saved it a bit for me was Chet's reaction.
You were so giving.
And like, it's real lost, but he almost seemed mad. He was like, no, not you. Ah.
Well, and Chet's an interesting character in this episode too, because in the last episode he's like, "I'm with you until the wheels fall off." I'm a go.
Yeah.
I'm a go.
Joe MK1 in the chat points out in regards to Ball, let's not forget about the fact that he can plant seeds in people's minds. So not only is he incredibly like seductive just being in his presence, he can just draw you in and make you want to make out with him, as we saw multiple times in this episode, but that he does have that power of suggestion a la Kilgrave.
Yeah.
It's not quite as intense,
Yeah.
but
I think there was a Dane Cook skit about like women insulting people. It's like a landmine, basically, like or mental terrorist or whatever. It's like Ball can say one thing, just plant that in the back of your mind and let it stew all season long, and then it finally explodes and you go crazy or something. I don't know. It'll be interesting. And yeah, so any other thoughts on Ball and Ruby in this episode?
Things might come back to me the further into it we go. I'm just thinking of the hair and the
as I said, Ball was a slow burn for me, but then especially once it all came to a head after Ball had thrown Ruby up against the wall and she'd gotten knocked unconscious, whatever, and then went back to the office in the police station where they all were gathered and disappeared with Linda. Then it was scary to me.
Yeah, and again, we don't even see where he what he's up to now. It's like he just dropped her in that cell, let his minion go and do her thing, and then just he bounced. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if he's playing the long game, how he plans on driving Ash crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and again, in that whole idea that Ruby brought up and that Kelly was very much in support of, that Ball his MO is he just traps people and turns them into animals and watches them destroy each other. So I don't think that game is over for him.
Yeah,
just because they're not physically contained in one room doesn't mean he's not containing them. And metaphysically speaking.
And and that would be a very fitting, in terms of a villain perspective, it would be a very fitting way for Ash to, for him to be in this self-destructive place, because he's always fought alone, and now that he has a family to destroy that family unit from within, making them tear each other apart, that's just awful.
Yep. Joe MK1 says in the chat that his phone call to Ash was very Freddy Krueger-esque.
It was.
Yes, it was.
It was a little, I'm your boyfriend now.
And also, Blackbuster Bill reminds us, Ball also has the dagger, so that's gonna suck.
Yeah, that's no good at all for anybody.
No, that's terrible. I was kind of expecting him to just take all the weapons, to be honest, but I guess that would be unsportsmanlike.
Well, and two, you get the impression, a lot of big bads in stories like this, he doesn't really perceive them as much of a threat at this point.
He's like, I'm gonna have fun.
Yeah, I mean, he left Ruby alive, so...
Yeah, and he also, the thing that will ultimately be his undoing is the Necronomicon, and that has been cast into another dimension now, so he's like, this is great,
but
this is fun.
But it does seem a little bit like it's not off the table entirely, as we see.
So we have Pablo in this episode, and what we can infer from what's happening to him is that it looks like pieces of the Necronomicon are being etched onto his skin from within. And so conceivably that's how we can defeat Ball, but at what cost, it looks like.
It seems like it really is, Pablo is on a track to becoming a weird Pablo Necronomicon hybrid?
Yeah, well, in speaking of, at BBusterBill on Twitter, in the hashtag says, why did tossing the book back bring forth Ball, and what is Ball's actual connection to the book? But I'm more interested in what's happening with Pablo in regards to the Necronomicon, because it's clearly starting to just physically manifest on his chest.
And again, it almost maybe. I was going to say, I wish we had seen, maybe it got left on the cutting room floor somewhere, but I wish we had seen a shot of him, looking in the mirror, changing his shirt, and seeing it first, and then choosing to hide it from people.
I agree. I would have liked that build-up as well. I mean, I don't think it suffered too much for not having it, but that would have been nice.
And we do get the audience shock value of going, what is that?
Right.
Yeah, they've been laying that groundwork for it, I think, pretty well in episodes past, so I feel like they could have dragged it out a little bit longer, but I'm glad that they're confident enough to burn through some of this stuff a little bit more quickly.
But they're like, okay, Pablo's becoming the Necronomicon. Let's move on.
And it's
no, continue, because mine is totally off topic, so please continue.
But it's interesting. So about the question about why did getting rid of the book bring forth Ball and what's the connection? So I think pretty clearly throwing the Necronomicon into the portal, not the best idea.
No. No.
So-
Is anyone surprised, really?
No, of course. As soon as they did that, I'm like, you really shouldn't have done that.
Like,
Especially,
that was a terrible idea.
especially after the little Muppet book, which we established last week is my new favorite thing that there is.
Yeah.
It was like, our destinies are entwined, Pablo. You and me, we're the same. And it spat out the word, it was like, bleh. And they get rid of it. But now it seems clear that whatever happened when the book meshed with his face, like they formed a link, and now it almost seems like the Necronomicon is re-emerging through Pablo. And it seems like at the end, Ruby alleges that, oh, this is actually, you might be the key to defeating Ball. So I think, yeah, getting rid of the book was probably a terrible idea because that maybe was the best weapon along with the dagger. But now that we maybe losing part of Pablo, we may be gaining part of the book back to stop him.
Yeah, the idea that somebody could be the physical embodiment of the Necronomicon, like that's like it's a very unique way of progressing the story and like keeping the Necronomicon around even though it's been cast into another dimension. And I kind of figure that the Necronomicon is kind of like a boomerang, like you toss it into a portal, it's eventually just going to come back to you anyway.
Yep.
So this is a unique way for the series to bring it back. Because every time you've tried to discard it or burn it or cut it up into a million pieces, nothing works.
Right.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the official explanation is for what's happening.
Oh, Megan, you are not going to like this.
Oh no!
Blockbuster Bill in the chat says, basically, throwing the book got the ball rolling.
Good night, everybody.
No, but what I was going to say, because
Thank you, Zach. Thank you.
because I noticed people talking about it in the chat, I died over that interaction between Chet and Pablo, where Chet was like, "Oh, it's the Mexican," and Ash is like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." It's Pablo the Mexican. And he's like, "Oh, look, it's Chet, the dumb white guy. Whoa, Pablo, that's a little racist."
You need to apologize.
But also, too, the look of pure bliss on Pablo's face when
know.
Ash says Pablo, even after Pablo the Mexican, he's still like, yeah, that's me.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, heaven. Yeah, and speaking about like Pablo's personality, and it's so clear now what Ray was talking about. You know, when we interviewed him at the top of the season about this light in Pablo, even though like there's a lot of dark stuff happening.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was gonna go this dark in terms of personal torture that a character is going through. Arguably, I think at this point Pablo might have I think what Pablo's going through is worse than anything that Ash is going through at this point.
I mean, Pablo's, as Ray says often, Pablo has seen some shit.
Yeah, and it's so sad too because he spends the entire episode thinking that he's possessed by Ball, and he's like, "It's me, guys!" And you can just see not fear for himself, but concern for everyone else around him.
But I feel like that's one of those things where it's like they say if you have a moment where you're questioning, like, "Oh my God, am I insane?" Like that means that you're sane because you're self-aware enough to go.
Because the crazy people don't know they're going crazy.
Exactly.
Right.
So the fact that Pablo's like, "I'm Ball, it's got to be me," it's like he's obviously not.
Exactly. And yeah, that's the only other thing is I think I would have liked them to play up the whodunit aspect of this episode.
I agree.
A little,
I could have done with a little bit more of that.
Like lean even further into the thingness of it all.
Because I love the Thing.
I know.
So I love Hellraiser and I love the Thing. So like even the fact that this episode was both of those things combined, that made me very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also it's interesting the number of overt references to iconic horror properties that we're getting this season. I mean, we got in 2 weeks. We got 2 references to Carpenter. What the Thing this week and Christine last week, certainly. And I think that's interesting. I mean, I didn't track as many of those in the first season. There were obviously plenty of references to the Evil Dead series.
Yeah.
But now we're getting a little bit of a greatest hits from horror as a genre, which I think is cool.
Exactly. And again, talking about references, seeing the skinless human demon. I said throughout last season that I don't know if anything is going to top Ellie Goss in terms of character design and makeup effects. this, I don't know if it tops it, but it's definitely the most impressive thing I think we've seen this
Yeah, it was pretty
season.
cool.
For
It
sure.
was pretty badass.
Yeah.
And also using that demon as an excuse to showcase these people continuing to grow as a team. Like, one thing we didn't mention when we were talking about Ruby, and it was not a primary focus of the episode, but how in the background, like, Ruby and Kelly have become this incredibly well-oiled machine working together.
I know, they really have. I mean, it's really interesting to see. And I think not out of character, because Kelly, even though, like, yes, Ash has been sort of a great mentor to her in some ways, Kelly and Ruby, I feel like, connect on this level of, like, they get shit done.
Exactly.
And so to see, you know, Ruby is the one who's explaining, like, okay, this is what's going to go down. Like, Ball is going to play this game. He's going to try to pit us all against each other. And to see Kelly just go, not questioning that, 100% support you. Like, it's great.
Yeah, and yeah, we've seen what happens when, you know, I guess you take idleness as the route, because Ash's solution is just, I'm gonna just sit back and wait things for happen, or don't think, let's go.
Yeah, he's not really a planner.
Exactly. So the fact that, like, Ruby now has somebody else who's intellectually on her level,
For sure, for
and
sure.
everything like that, because Ash has helped her form, like, a lot of these physical skills in terms
Right,
of
right.
combat ability. Now it's nice to have somebody, like, more on her level in terms of, like, okay, let's form a strategy, let's make a plan, and we're gonna have this action item and this action item, and we're gonna get this done and take care of that demon.
Right.
It's gonna be great.
Plus, I think it's in Kelly's best interest in a lot of ways to form this alliance with Ruby. Not that I think that this is her motivation at all, but I think there is some sort of subconscious level, because there's all this demon shit going down with Pablo.
Yeah.
And Ruby's probably your best bet to know how to resolve that issue.
Well, and even if that wasn't happening with Pablo, Pablo thinks the world of Ash, and of course Kelly cares about Ash, but she can recognize a lot
His
of his
flaws,
flaws
yes.
in a
Absolutely.
way that Pablo overlooks, because Ash has become such a central father
Sure,
figure.
Indeed,
sure,
yeah.
absolutely.
So yeah, I love the way that their relationship is developing, and it's nice to see them working as a team. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, really cool.
Yep. So it'll be interesting to see where Kelly can prop up Ruby when Ruby's at her lowest low in terms of dealing with her ex, for sure.
That's an interesting concept too, because it really does. Nobody else now is in a position to assume a leadership role as effectively as Kelly. Pablo's possessed. Ruby is emotionally compromised. Ash is Ash. So yeah,
Ash is Ash.
I'm really curious to see how and at what point she is forced to step up, because it seems like we're putting her in that position.
Yes, exactly. It'll be interesting to see, like, when the time comes, Kelly stepping up for sure, because we know it's going to happen at some point.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've talked about it a little bit. Let's talk about Ash, because Ash spends most of this episode trying to rekindle his relationship with one of the many Lindas that
What an amazing line that was.
That was so great. I love that he referenced that there were multiple.
One of the only Lindas from me.
He tried. He really did.
Oh, it was good.
But the fact that he started off this episode going, like, I'm going to hit on this very married woman.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh,
But you know,
Ash.
the thing is that I thought was so interesting about this episode was that juxtaposition of Ash and the sheriff.
Yeah.
Ash has, like, this weird, like, view of women, and it could be seen as misogynistic, but, like, he's
could be.
sort of charmingly misogynistic. And at the end of the day, he actually, like, legit, like, even though, yes, he hooks up with lots of women, like, in a way, or so he would like to anyway. In a way, though, he does care about them.
Sure.
Yeah, and the thing is that, like, it's 100% because of past experience. Like, the people that he's loved and grown a connection with, most of them end up dead.
Yeah.
For sure.
And, like, we saw it in that extended scene where he was talking with Linda's severed head towards the end of last season, and so, like, we know that, like, he probably genuinely fears a lot of human connection for that very reason. It's one of those things where I think a lot of his womanizing is very much about pushing those feelings deep down.
Right,
sure.
right. Because, I mean, certainly Ash, as we see him at the beginning of the Evil Dead franchise, is, like, kind of a good kid. You know what I mean? Like, he's not, like, he has a job, and he's got a nice girlfriend, and he, like, bought her a necklace.
He bought her a necklace, and, like...
So I can only imagine that, you know, that teenage Ash was more like that. I mean, certainly they suggest that he was maybe a little bit of a player because he couldn't remember which car was her mom's car.
Right.
He eventually
That might just be from the years of drinking,
I was going to say, yeah, that's very true. He eventually came to that conclusion, though.
But I mean, he could have just kept going through car names until he eventually hit the right one.
That's true.
Well, and I'm also wondering if, like, a lot of this, like, trying to, like, get them together as a couple, if that's not part of Ball's long con, because you can definitely hear him whispering to the sheriff, like, throughout this episode. And I think it's, even though he was acting really extreme and really weird, I think it's really weird for a couple that's been together for 20 years for her to just say, it's over. Yeah, this is extreme circumstances, but it's not like the beginning of 28 Weeks Later where, you know, he runs away from the zombies and everything like that.
I mean, I do feel, I totally see what you're saying, and I don't disagree, although I do feel like once your spouse points a gun at you and aggressively threatens you and your daughter,
yeah,
there's a line somewhere.
That's fair.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lex, that again, it's like, it's not that I fully disagree with what you're saying, but again, it was that juxtaposition of seeing Ash be the one who actually is very caring and protective and like even of Lacey. Like he was very like protective of her in the face of her dad, like basically being like, you gotta, you know, when Lacey was trying to say no, Dad, like he's really gonna
listen to
you
me.
need to listen to, you need to listen to me, you need to listen to him, he's gonna help us, and he's like, you shut your mouth, you know what I mean? Like, and to have Ash be like, whoa, let's just calm down here, you know?
Did you really kill her? No.
It's
Complicated. Yeah.
He tries.
He
He
so
really
hard.
does try.
It's so funny because he's like, anytime anybody accuses him of murder, he always manages to say the worst possible thing in his defense.
Oh, that was so funny when they were talking about like, did you kill Amber? And he's like, no, well,
I feel like all you gotta say in that situation is, no, I killed a demon that looked like Amber.
Sure, yeah.
But that takes a logical leap a little bit.
Yeah. And you have to convince everybody around you that demons are in fact real.
For sure.
And that they are responsible for the terrible things, and that your reputation as a murderer already isn't true, but it's because of those demons.
Yeah, at best you're looking at least 3 really intense uphill battles, for sure.
Exactly. Speaking of Lacey, we get a little bit of flirting in this episode.
Oh my God, Lacey is like so in love with Pablo.
There is only one man
cute.
brave enough to stop them. Oh, thanks. I meant Pablo. Like, and then the cut to Pablo. He's like, me? Like the look on his face?
Now, I gotta ask, does this change your guys' feelings? Because up until this point, we've really liked the platonic relationship between Pablo and Kelly. With Lacey's introduction, and I like that it's a love interest potentially for Pablo instead of Ash.
Yeah,
She's clearly
I agree.
way too
I
young.
totally agree.
I like that because Ash has he's got several potential love interests running around. But I really like this. The idea of Lacey and Pablo maybe. Now here's my question: still shipping Pablo and Kelly, or shipping Pablo and Lacey now?
So my answer, the immediate answer that I go to is I'm shipping Pablo and Lacey specifically because I want to watch Kelly react to it.
You want her to get jealous.
A little, because I feel like, yeah, we talked about possibly shipping them, but it seemed like maybe the show was more interested in not going in that direction and having it be more of a brother-sister thing.
Yeah.
Which I actually preferred.
Yeah,
Same.
I do too.
But there's just enough there in some of their interactions where it's like seems like they're leaving that door open slightly. So now with the introduction of this new character, I do want to see what that does for their dynamic.
Yeah, I think it's good for Pablo to have like another love interest, and to have someone who looks up to him in the way that he looks up to Ash.
Yeah,
you know what I
like
mean?
that. Like, this guy is a hero. He fought a demon car for me and saved me. That sort of thing.
Yeah,
so cute, you guys.
it's cute. I like it.
I agree with you guys. I think I like Lacey and Pablo together. Granted, they haven't had a ton of scenes together yet, but I like the idea.
Yeah.
And the main reason I would have shipped Kelly and Pablo together anyway is because Pablo was so enamored with her. So giving him another option, I like that. And that way they don't have to put Kelly and Pablo together.
With Xena Warrior Princess. How, like, you always, like, kind of wanted Joxer and Gabrielle to get together just because, like, Joxer was so in love with her, but like really it was all about Gabrielle and Xena. You know
Exactly,
what I mean?
exactly.
So I don't know, maybe it's all about Kelly and Ruby.
It might be.
I mean,
I would love it if this show went that direction. That would be great.
you would hear no complaints from me.
So yeah, chat, let us know what you think. Do you ship Pablo and Lacey, or Kelly and Pablo,
I mean, Joe,
or Kelly and Ruby?
Joe MK1 seems to be solidly into Pablo and Kelly. He's saying, did no one notice how clingy Kelly was to Pablo when Emery had the gun pointed at him? And she was extremely concerned about him when the Necronomicon the words started appearing on his chest. But they were like, is that Sumerian?
It's not French. Well, honestly, again, that can be taken as romantic love interest, or it can just brother sister. And I would love
This show knows what it's doing.
It does. It does. I have complete faith in them. So yes, I think that kind of wraps it up for this episode a little bit.
One last
Go
note.
ahead,
This metaphor that I find absolutely wonderful, where Ash at the end finally says the right thing to the lady he has his eye on, and then immediately walks her into a bar and knocks her unconscious.
Yeah.
That's about as perfect a metaphor for his love situation as I can conjure.
Pretty darn good.
I concur with that assessment. This is a man who, as charming and charismatic and badass as he is, he just can't win. He really can't.
No.
So, before we move into predictions, I want to talk to you guys really quickly about iTunes. Folks, thank you so much to everybody who's gone to iTunes to rate, comment, subscribe. We love hearing from you, and it's the best way to let our producers know that you guys like the show that we're putting on. It's how we've been able to establish this wonderful relationship we have with Starz now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's how we get guests for the show. I mean, that people, the powers that be, pay attention to these things. So it really does mean the world to us when you guys go to iTunes to rate and leave a comment. We love hearing from you guys on YouTube and in the live chat and on Twitter too. But iTunes really is the best way to let, like I said, the powers that be know that you guys like this show. Emma, do you happen to have iTunes pulled up?
I do. We don't. I don't know. I swear we had iTunes reviews.
It's kind of, it's like they got erased
I know.
or something. I don't understand it.
I don't know
Guys,
what's going on.
we don't know what happened to our iTunes comments from last season.
Because we definitely had iTunes reviews.
We did for sure.
I remember them.
Yeah.
So we did not make that up.
No, they were definitely there.
Trent, they were totally there.
You don't know.
It's
believe me.
it's complicated.
But guys, it would be please continue to let us feel validated because now that there are no comments, I need that validation in my life. So if you guys could go to iTunes, rate, comment, subscribe, you will get a shout out on the show. So please do that.
Yes.
That's really sad.
It's okay. We still like you.
Thank you guys. We really appreciate that. Anywho, so let's go ahead and move on into predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So I might ship Pablo and Lacey, but if he becomes the Necronomicon, I don't know if it's gonna work.
I don't know.
That would probably drive a wedge for sure between the two of them.
Yeah, I don't know though. Maybe this is all part of his like majestic shaman transformation that I'm still convinced is gonna happen.
If he doesn't become some sort of magical boy by the end, or like a wizard by the end of this season, I will be very disappointed.
I'll be very disappointed as well. I feel like since we're on the topic of romance, like I'm excited to see where this Ash and OG Linda goes.
We should definitely qualify her as that. There are so many.
There are so many Lindas, but this one's the original.
Well, and then two, how big a thorn is the sheriff going to potentially continue to be?
Dude, that sheriff is a dick. I'm just gonna say it. I do not like that guy.
There is again a line up until which I can understand where he's coming from, and he just aggressively leaps over the line.
Well, I don't want to vilify him too badly because Ash tormented him when they were teenagers, and now 20 years later, again, this potential murderer, and by potential we mean actual murderer,
Actual murderer,
has swooped back into town and is very much trying to steal this guy's wife of 20 years.
Yeah.
And now also one of his buddies just shot him in the leg too.
Yeah,
So
maybe not a great plan,
Not a
Ash.
great plan. And so again, the sheriff, he is a dick, but I don't want to vilify him too badly because Ash has treated him very unfairly.
And to be fair, the most egregious stuff we see him do is after he has a demon whispering in his ear. So
Exactly.
That is true. No,
There's
that is
that.
absolutely true. He is definitely susceptible to the power of suggestion. Gemma in the chat says Cheryl is probably going to be in the next episode.
Oh, I mean, potentially in
And
terms of like
The episode preview heavily hints at it. I watched a press screener. There was no preview for the next episode.
the most of the preview that we saw, it mostly focused on Pablo
Yes.
and what was happening to him in his transformation. I would really appreciate some Cheryl in this show for
I would
sure.
love it. I would
Because
love it.
when Brock died, I was, in addition to it being very comical, but I was really disappointed because I kind of felt that a lot of that, you know, lingering, in terms of like lingering feelings of loss for Cheryl, were just thrown right out the window, and I wanted that to be a central focus.
Right, because
this
there had
season.
been such a nice moment of him being like, you killed your sister. Like,
Yeah.
you took away my daughter.
what I'm wondering too, if we are going to see Brock again in some form before the end of the season, because his last words to Ash before the demon car mowed him down.
It's very important.
It's like setting up this massive reveal that for whatever reason we didn't lead with. But yeah, I'm wondering if we're ever going to tie that up, because that's a massive loose end not to come back to.
It's one of those things where it's like it could very well be plot relevant, or it could have been just
Just
a
to be like,
really
yeah.
funny line.
A way to pull the rug out, for sure.
Exactly. And again, as awful as it is, it made me laugh so hard.
It was, and again, they're doing it so amazingly well this season, balancing being hilarious and way over the top, and actually giving you pathos and like real, genuine human drama.
Yeah, and I know we should probably start wrapping up, but the only other thing I want to touch on in this episode, even though I know we're talking about predictions, was it's always nice to see, because this show is so funny and over the top in its action and its gore and its splat stick, that it's always
I like that term.
Film Theory did a frame by frame talking about Evil Dead 2. I highly recommend sitting down and watching it. They were talking about the concept of splat stick.
Nice.
But anyway, at the very beginning of this episode, I really did like seeing what was a very funny, hilarious action sequence that we had with a Deadite framed in a very horror movie scenario, because we see what it's like when Ash isn't there
Sure.
fighting the
Yeah.
good fight, and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Absolutely.
I like that. Any other final thoughts on this week's episode or predictions for next time?
I liked it.
Yes! Seconded.
Good stuff. And I could always use more Hellraiser in my various horror franchises. So good job, team. And thank you again to everybody in the live chat and the hashtag. You guys are fantastic. Emma, where can people go if they want to find you?
You can find me all over the internet, wherever Emma Fyffes are sold, at Emma Fyffe, EMMAFYFFE. That is all F's, as in Frank, for all of you who are obviously listening on iTunes. No S's as in snake. They tend to sound the same on the phone or when you record them into a microphone and transmit them into people's ears. I'm on a bunch of shows at AfterBuzz TV. You should watch them. I tweet about them, so just follow me on Twitter.
Lex, where can people go to find you?
I am all over social media at the Lex Michael. I also do a bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz. I'm on Supergirl on Mondays, Arrow on Wednesdays, Legends of Tomorrow on Thursdays. I also do Comic Book Exchange on the Book Circle Online network. It's a wonderful show. Come nerd out with us on all of these different platforms. It's wonderful. We love you. Mwah.
That's awesome. Again, be sure to follow Lucretia on social media and all that stuff. She will be back with us next week, along with another guest. fun stuff. I'm Megan. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @themenguin. That's TheMenguin. I'm also on a bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz with these fine folks a lot of times. But we also did a panel this past Saturday. AfterBuzz recorded it. It will be up on YouTube at some point.
Yes, for Star Wars Rebels.
It was a ton of fun. We were joined by Darren DePaul. It was a great time. And for those of you Screen Junkie Plus subscribers, I'm going to be on TV Fights on Tuesday. So please tune into that. It's gonna be a good time. Thank you all so much for watching. And again, happy Halloween, everybody.
Yay.
We will see you all next time. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.